Welcome to Sales Warrior War Room.
Hey everybody, welcome to the May episode of Sales Warrior War Room. Got a really special guest coming to us all the way from the great state of Texas. Doyle Slayton, say hello to everybody in the war room.
Hey everybody, great to be with you, John.
Heck yeah, man. Great having you, Doyle. Man, you and I just kind of met through a friend of mine. I guess it's a mutual friend of ours. And, the universe brings us who we need to be with, right?
That's right. Yeah, I need to call him up and say, hey, I connected with John and he put me on the big show.
There you go. There you go, man. He probably needs to buy us both a beer, is what I would say.
Hey, I like that idea. The idea keeps getting better and better. Let's keep building on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Conceptually. Okay. So, the war room's all about like throwing out like really good information, either for beginner salespeople, beginner sales managers, beginner sales directors, or tenured sales directors, tenured sales managers, tenured salespeople. The reason is because you always need inspiration. You always need that next new idea. Because I think, Doyle, you're like me, like you've been doing this thing a long time, man. Tell everybody like how long you've been in the sales gig or the sales world.
Well, it's hard to believe, but it's now been, I think I was calculating this the other day, about 27 years.
Man,
I think we were talking about before the podcast.
Yeah.
I started in sports broadcasting.
Yeah.
And what I had to do was sell ads, with local businesses to be able to pay for the airtime.
Okay.
Either the high school teams or the local college teams that I was doing the broadcast for. And then I would come back and produce the ads, write the copy, and either do the voiceover myself or get someone else in the office to do the voiceover. And that's how I cut my teeth in sales and marketing, through a whole different industry that I thought I wanted to do. But I realized I wanted to spend my weekends and my holidays with my future family. And when I realized that sales was a pretty good gig, I decided to stick with that.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I kind of fell into sales myself because I was a purchasing guy for an ad agency in Dallas. And I thought that the guys that were calling on me had a better life than I did. And I wanted to be in their shoes and not mine.
And now you're sitting in your lake house, which is pretty good shoes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's there's something to be said for sales. You can kind of write your own ticket. So there's something that's like really golden here that I want to mention to the listening audience, because I think it's missed on a lot of maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know, but like hiring directors. Like back in the day when I did some hiring, I always looked for people with like really good, rich voices, because in sales, even if you're face to face and you're a good looking individual, if you have a bad voice, it can be difficult. I think it's missed on a lot of people that if you're in sales, you should, like, don't you think, Doyle, like you got a wonderful voice. You'd be an easy hire.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's funny also that you bring that up, because I remember, being here in Dallas, in the Dallas area, I used to have to drive all the way to downtown Dallas to come, right? And, around that time was in those, early to mid, 2005 to 2010. I would be driving through all the traffic, and I probably shouldn't say this, but the iPhone had come out, and you had the ability to record yourself.
Oh, okay.
So what I would do is I would be driving to work, and instead of wasting an hour of
Yeah.
my drive on nothingness, I would either listen to some sort of audio about sales, or I would practice what my pitch was going to be into my recorder. And I would speak it in out loud to practice, and then I would listen back, and I say, I think I can say this part a little better, or a little different, or create inflection here or there. And so I did that hundreds of times to try to perfect what I felt like was going to make the most impact with my audience. And I think that may have come from also working on broadcasting scripts and one-liners from that previous career. So I do think it's important, speaking of hiring managers and such, I mean, a lot of people are looking for folks with industry experience, or, this or that. But at the end of the day, I think what you need to be looking for is certain intangibles. And you're bringing up voice and inflection and that sort of thing. And I think that's important. But another one that's critically important is mental toughness. And how do you analyze that? How do you identify whether somebody has that?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting things about how people who are really good at finding good sellers to join their team can identify the skill sets and qualities that are going to make them great for that particular role.
Well, that's kind of interesting that you brought up mental toughness, because when I used to interview sales guys back in the day, I had a question, and it was a really good question to determine whether I might give them an offer or not. And my question was, let's say you've been, working for me all day long, and you've been hard at it. Like, you made 80, 90 phone calls. You've talked to a lot of people. You haven't made one sale all day, and it's about 20 minutes to close. Do you make another call?
Yeah, I like that. Well, and another great example is, let's say you did sell 1 or 2 or 3 deals that day. What do you do with the last, 20 minutes of your day? Oh, I'm going to make more calls because I'm on a roll, right?
Yes.
If I'm on a roll, then I'm going to stay on that roll, right?
Yes.
So it's like whether your day is going great or your day's not going so hot, you want to keep going. No matter what it is, keep going. Work through the momentum to get another one because you're on fire, or just keep going through the fire so you can get to the other side. Because everything happens in waves, right?
Yeah, man. I
like that idea.
No, that's a great idea, Doyle. I mean, that's exactly the way I think, because like I'm working a sales day every day, like right now. And it's so easy for me to get complacent. It's so easy for me to say, you know what? I think I'll just go walk around the lake and take my dogs for a hike. Like it's so easy for me. I made a few sales today. I think I'm done. I think I'm good. I think I'll just, maybe call some friends and figure out where the happy hour is going to be tonight.
Well, and the reality is that's okay too. And it's necessary, right?
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're going to hammer again next week.
Right. No, I hear you. I believe in balance too, but I think the key thing is what you're talking about. And I think it's missed on a lot of salespeople, because I've seen it like my entire life on every single sales floor I've ever been involved in. And I've been involved in some pretty big ones over the years. They make a sale and then they stop.
Yeah.
Like, I got a sale.
Why do you think that is? Well, I mean, because there's several thoughts that come to mind, but what do you think the reason behind it is? And it's obviously individual based, but
no, I mean, I think we're keying in on something that's really important. I think it's there's a lot of things going on why somebody wouldn't want more money and more success. In some instances, it might be that they don't have the capacity, like the fact that they just had to write up some paperwork, which kind of changes your mindset. Like when you're writing paperwork up, whether it's digital or actual paperwork like back in the day, you kind of use a different part of your brain than when you're engaged with somebody and you're trying to persuade. It's a different part of your brain, and that might be a part of it. I think another part of it is fear of failure and fear of success. And a lot of times when people say fear of success, you're like, what do you mean? Nobody fears success. Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like your point, especially about the paperwork aspect. I've always been a big believer in also what you touched on, which is helping manage your sales team's energy level.
I like it.
And focusing on creating enablement tools, resources, tech stack to allow the seller to operate as efficiently as possible so that they don't get an energy suck out of the things that should be the most exciting.
Yes.
If I'm about to send out an agreement, it should be easy. A couple of clicks of a button or two to get it set up, and everything auto-populates from the contact record in your CRM, and you press the send button, craft a little email, and let's go. Right?
Yeah.
So I like that a lot as being part of the reasoning.
Yeah, no, I agree with automation too, because unfortunately, like you, I probably started out in sales where there was like zero automation. So like I can respect like how much automation we have today.
Yeah, that's another thing that's just a huge topic right now, right? Because on one end of the spectrum, if I was the only one, or if you and I were the only two people that were using automation, man, it'd be great. Give us a huge advantage.
Right.
Because everybody's using automation, in many cases, it can be a disadvantage. Not from an ability to get a lot done, but from a perspective of the noise that automation is created. If you look at LinkedIn, if you look at email inboxes and what's happening with email automation and delivery rates, ending up in spam, and those types of things, that's causing a lot of challenges on the other end of the spectrum. So, I think really the changes that have happened in the last 12 to 18 months around email is going to make an impact and a difference on how things evolve in our ability to use automation effectively, so that our emails continue to be delivered and not end up in the spam box.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. When we're talking about like a change in email delivery roughly about 18 months ago, what exactly occurred?
Well, I think what you found is that everybody is promoting this concept that, listen, just go sit on the beach and sip on a margarita. Let the AI and the automation do the selling, and it'll sell while you sleep. And, in some cases, like maybe you're selling a phone app or, some sort of B2B service that's easy for the user to go and sign up and start using the service. That's fine. Okay. But in terms of being able to do B2B, especially enterprise sales, nobody's going to believe that you can have AI do the selling for you. Right. And so ultimately what's happened is with automation, with AI writing the copy for you, and it all sounds the same, and it's not genuine, and personalization is a confused topic and such. And then ultimately for emails to be sent out by the tens of thousands to your TAM, people burn through the TAM. And so ultimately what ended up happening is all the cyber companies and the email clients, like Google, Gmail, and Outlook, and Apple Mail, they're all working against those automation folks to say we're not out here to just spam people with email, right? And that's where it really concerns. So what ended up happening is the next thing you have to do is, if you're going to do email sequencing and prospecting in an automated fashion, is you've got to add a lot of elements to it and avoid others to ensure that your deliverability rate is high. Open rates are not accurate. Click rates are not accurate with the analytics. Those have become inaccurate vanity metrics.
Okay.
So the most important thing that matters now is whether or not it's being delivered, right, at all.
Right.
And ideally that it's ending up not in your spam box or promotion box, but that ultimately the reply rates are so low, but those are the most realistic metric that you can track.
Yeah.
Right?
I gotcha.
So ultimately, that's what's been happening. So what are some of the things that people have done to improve it? Well, number one, you should never prospect from your primary domain, right? So if our domain is getfollowups.com,
yes,
you should not do email prospecting en masse through automation using your primary domain.
Okay.
Because that ends up in spam. Then all the emails that you send people that are one-to-one are going to end up in their spam box.
Wow. That's a gold nugget right there, Doyle.
Right? So you never want to prospect from your primary domain. So now there are tools out there like Instantly, for example, or you can just work with your IT team to say, I want you to go purchase prospecting domains. So instead of getfollowups.com, it might be tryfollowups.com.
Okay.
Right? And you want to create 6 different versions, and those have to go through what's called a warm-up phase. And so you warm up those emails sent behind the scenes to have them sending emails and getting responses through this automation tool that warms up the email, so it's not brand new in the eyes of these email clients and cyber companies.
Oh, okay.
And then ultimately what happens is you keep track of how your reply rates and interactions are going. So that's number one. Number two is you've got to be able to use what Ample Market calls liquid syntax. And liquid syntax are these sets of brackets that you put within the email copy in the software like Ample Market. And you say, depending on the industry or job title, for example, I want you to use these words in this section of my email instead of these words for this other title or this other industry. And so what that does is it changes the copy of your email so that it's not the same one thousands and thousands of times.
Interesting.
That's
okay.
another thing that causes things to go to spam.
Yeah. That's intriguing. I have a little trick that I do. And it tends to be on what I would call the follow-up. If in I don't know, I'm a country boy, I'll just say it. So like when I say things, it's going to sound like uncomplicated and not out of a textbook. But what I'll tell you is, like, when a prospect wiggles, and what I mean by that is that it's almost like when you're fishing and and you get like a little tug on your line. I can kind of see that. Somebody asked me a question, like a lot of salespeople, they get a question and they get defensive. I get a question and I feel like I got a fish on the hook.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing I was going to say about email is, if they emailed me, or responded to an email that I sent them, rather, when I go to follow up with them, I save all those emails. And then I respond to the email that they had already sent me, and that gets through the spam filter.
That's great. Well, that's the thing, is as soon as somebody replies to you, then you can send them whatever you want.
Yeah.
And to clarify, for example, what I mean by whatever you want, if you send an email with a tracking mechanism on it, That's
Yes.
going to go to spam more than likely, right?
Okay.
But it tells you they click, they open, these sorts of things. And remember,
Yeah.
it's not even accurate anymore anyway. If I were
Yeah.
to scroll through my emails on my iPhone, it would start alerting me that all my recipients are looking at my emails when they're really not.
Oh, okay.
So ultimately, bottom line is you don't want to send images, you don't want to send attachments, you don't want to send anything that has HTML embedded in it with the first attempt, right?
Okay.
No bullet points and bolding and links and all of these things. All of those are spam alerts.
Oh, okay.
Through. So the fact that you're using the emails that are responded to then be able to send any of that stuff is exactly right. You can send whatever you want once they've replied to you.
Hey, let me ask you this. So if you send an email, this is intriguing to me. So if you send an email and say it has a hot link in it, like that into itself, like would maybe filter out because it hits as spam?
When you say hot link, something that would link them to your website or a gated
Yeah,
app.
like here's an example. Like I got an email that I send out that has my bio in it, and I do it so that they can immediately click on my bio. But I'm wondering if those emails are going to a spam filter.
Well, it depends on what parameters and red flags that their email client and their cyber security software is flagging and observing. But oftentimes, yes, links are one of those that have become, over the last 12 to 18 months, one of those no-nos. So really, deliverability rates for emails have brought that part of the industry to its knees.
Is that like B2B? I mean, are we talking mainly B2B or B2C?
Most of my experience is B2B. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Got it.
if I'm just sending emails to someone with a Gmail account, I'm not an expert to tell you what that looks like.
Okay.
But I know that email deliverability rates, really in general, but especially to B2B, are really, really low these days. And that's why, to me, I love the phone, right? I mean, phone.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I love the phone too.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Uh,
When it comes to phone calls, in my line of work, in terms of
Yeah.
B2B, I mean, the most important thing you can do is have direct dial information, right? Because it takes a lot of phone calls. I'm looking at connect rates here with even phone calls, right? You might have somewhere between, let's just say, 3 and 8% connect rate, generally speaking,
Okay.
for phone calls. So if you think about it, that requires a lot of calls to be made. And so I like using a dialer, but let me look at another one. The conversation rate, I'm looking at some numbers here that could be 18 to say 60%. I've got mine is at 65% actually for this past 7 days.
Okay.
And so ultimately, the conversations are the folks that you actually had a quality conversation with.
Okay.
So it means
Okay.
you're probably talking to the right person. It is a valid phone number. It's a direct dial. And then from those quality conversations, how many did you turn into a meeting, right? My number for this 7 days is 17.6%. I'm really happy with that, right?
Okay. Okay.
So if you think about 17%, if I talk to 100 people with quality conversations, I was right around 17.5% on a cold call, first time ever for an enterprise type of solution. I'll take it.
Heck yeah.
You want to be somewhere in the area of 7 for every 7 to 10 calls that you make. Can you get at least one appointment? Right?
Yeah.
If you
That
can
makes
get
sense.
2, that's even better. So that's what I love about phone. Number one is that with a dialer, you can make a lot. And it scares the heck out of me when people talk about, let's have AI make phone calls for you. Because if you start doing that, the same thing that happened with email is going to kill the ability to make outbound calls.
Oh yeah, it'll pick up that it's the computer. Yeah, interesting.
Right. So that's what I'm hoping. Nobody really in their right mind crushes that channel. And then LinkedIn works well too, but I don't want to get off the calls because I'm sure we want to stay on that topic for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a phone call, like that's how I've made my living for 34 years. Even when I did outside IT sales, it was all about the phone. Like my boss would always be like, "Hey, how come aren't you ever like at appointments or whatever?" And when I went to an appointment, it was to get a purchase order.
Nice.
You know, and or sometimes, and people not in the IT business might not know this terminology. I don't know, but like sometimes it was to develop in proof of concept. Like I could get them really far, but they'd be like, "Hey, I just want to see it like demonstrated here on our network." And I'd be like, "Okay, I can make that happen." But that's why I didn't have that many like face-to-face appointments, even though I was a face-to-face sales guy, but I had good numbers.
Yeah. Well, what I like about the phone over any other channel of communication is that it allows you to interact live, right? And ultimately, it gives you a better chance because
I
you
agree.
do things and say things going back to kind of the voice inflection or these types of things that allow you a chance to engage someone much more effectively in real time than any other channel of communication.
Well, you know, here's so I got people working for me these days, and we were having a meeting with them one day, and we were talking about, tell us about like the voicemail that you left, because we have a system, Doyle, for cold prospecting, where we send an email, we make a phone call, and then we send a second email, and our second email says second attempt, and it works fantastic. And that second attempt email, 90% of our people book on that. Like,
Nice.
You know, that's where we get our appointments from, is that second attempt email. And we've been complimented over the years from prospects about our process, which blows my mind too. But anyway, I got a new person working for me, and they said, "Oh, you know, I just leave my name and my number." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Like, people, if you can hear anything on this podcast that we're telling you today, when you are on the phone and you are leaving a voicemail, that is a meeting. Like, if you're not thinking of it as a meeting, you don't understand what you're doing for a living. Like, when I leave a message on a voicemail, man, I'm on stage. I'm like Robert De Niro. You know, I'm like, whatever I got to be, I am in the moment to get their attention, to call me back, or to move the deal forward. Because the phone is beautiful if they listen to the message, because they can't talk. So I can tell them exactly what I want to tell them and lead them and do what exactly I want them to do, and they're not interrupting me. You know, it's the beautifulest thing, I think, the phone, for that reason. And I think most people, they think it's only an appointment, you know, I'm only trying to get appointments. I can only ask somebody to buy on an appointment. I can only answer questions on an appointment. I can only overcome objections on an appointment. No, the phone is it's your microphone. I mean, it's your voice to the customer. I love the phone.
Yeah.
Kind of passionate about it.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know if you remember Jill Conrad. Yeah. She wrote the book Selling to Big Companies, and then she wrote the book Snap Selling. And one of the folks that I talked to about the concept of voicemail, you know, years ago, among others. And I actually started my career not leaving voicemails at the beginning. And the reason was simple. One, it was, and I don't know if we talked about this during the show or before the show, but it's about managing your energy level.
Right.
So if you're making, at the time, before we had dialers to help us make more, if you're making somewhere between 40 to 60 calls or 80 to 100 calls, if you're high volume in a day, if you leave that many voicemails, it's exhausting. And so
Oh
when
yeah,
you get
yeah,
someone on the phone, then ultimately you're not going to be on your A game because you've been leaving voicemails and you're tired. So that was my belief originally, right?
yeah,
But then I started thinking about it, especially as answering the phone went down. Well, and the second piece was, if I could save those 20 seconds of voicemail time over the course of 40 to 60 calls, or 60 to 80, or 80 to 100, whatever your volume was, that's a
yeah.
lot of time saved also, right?
That's true. Yeah,
It allowed me to make more calls and really go for just voice to voice. So that's where I lived my career for a large part of the beginning stages. But then I started rethinking that. And I thought,
yeah,
voicemail is an opportunity to also create perspective, share value, and most importantly, is to change the paradigm of what the expectation and the goal was. Because most people, in my experience in the
yeah,
industry, then they don't call you back. So I want to change. A lot of people say, "Well, I don't leave voicemail because nobody calls me back." Well, change the paradigm. They don't need to call me back. What I want them to do is remember me, so that the next email that comes through,
yeah.
or the next time I
Agreed. Agreed.
that they're like, "Oh yeah, Doyle, how are you?" Right? And they remember me, and instead of what is the alternative to my early stage of my career believing, was this concept that you don't want to be, you don't want your voice on that call when they finally answer to be the first time they ever heard of you,
Yeah, I like it.
right?
You know,
There's just
yeah,
so many variables to
yeah,
scenarios and situations that impact success, or unfortunate when we go through failure.
yeah. So you're bringing up a really good point, and this is something I think of a lot, especially when sales aren't going well, or cold outreach is not doing well. And I think of the concept of 5 outreaches before you make a sell, and that's why it's so important to leave that voicemail because then you've made an impression. And that's so key, because for whatever reason, this already, Doyle, but for whatever reason, like, people are lazy. People get comfortable with you when you're in their face a lot. Like, the more you're in their face, like many times, like in the IT business, people bought from me not because I was cheapest. They bought from me because I was easy to do business with,
Yes, that's
and they
that.
liked me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they could have bought what I was selling them from anybody. Sometimes I sold an IBM laptop computer. This is funny. I sold it to IBM.
That's
And
great.
this even gets funnier. I took the IBM. This was years ago. I mean, we're talking over 20 years ago. I was helping them with some software, and they're like, "Hey, can we buy a ThinkPad from you?" And I'm like, "Can't you just get one like internally? Why do you need a ThinkPad for me?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you want on it?" And they told me, and I'm like, "Okay, so Pentium this, blah 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 blah. Okay, blah 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 blah." I look on my computer, and I up it by like $100 because I'm not trying to get rich off selling IBM their own stuff. And she comes back to me and she's like, "God, how can you sell it that cheap to me? Like, if I go internally, it's so much more expensive." Like, I'm like, "What?" This
That's
was
great.
years ago.
Well, instead of somebody saying that you are so good that you could sell ice to Eskimos,
Yeah.
the new saying needs to be, you're so good you can sell an IBM laptop to IBM.
Well, I like to think I'm good, but the other thing I'm thinking is that, like, it was a point in time that, again, I was the easiest person to do business with. Internally, she said she had to fill out a bunch of paperwork. She's already doing a purchase order to me already. Just throw an IBM ThinkPad on there. It might have too had to do with like how it got expensed, and she didn't, since she's already cutting a PO and got a PO approved. like, well, you know, this being a B2B guy is like, they will do like the easiest thing that they can do with the least amount of signatures. Like they're you know, they're trying to keep as few as bosses as possible of knowing what they're actually buying.
Right. Well, that's another area that I see a lot of challenges, right? Is that, you know, when it comes to one of the most common challenges I see, and I know we're kind of getting away from the top of the funnel, but on the bottom of the funnel side of things, you know, if I go into a new client that I'm working with and doing sales consulting for, one of the first things that I look at once we get past the top of the funnel, data and tech stack and messaging and process, is let's start looking at you know, how quickly and easily deals are closing. And what you'll often find is that folks have these exceptionally long and complicated agreements that are really unnecessary. And so they're turning to their legal consultant or legal team to help create something that makes you difficult to do business with. And when I help them, and I'm not an attorney, but when I make recommendations to cut that thing from 16 pages to 3 or 4 pages, those deals start popping much faster.
I bet. Yeah.
And so ultimately, that's what we've got to be able to do as sales leaders, is to be able to align with these other departments that are making an impact. They think they're doing a good job to protect the company, right? But they're also hurting us because it's taking too much and it's hard to do business with us and that sort of thing. So no, I think it's a good point.
Now, I you know, you bring up something I'm familiar with as well, because I can remember deals getting stalled because of the legal agreement. Like page 15 of the legal agreement, they've underlined, and they're not happy with this.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely remember that stuff. Well, I want to keep talking about the phone because I think the phone's so important. And you brought up a good point, and it's something I think about a lot. And it's like sales momentum and energy drain. Because I think like in every sales gig, you know, whether you got the best CRM package or you got like the worst dinosaur ever, what matters is the state that you're in when you're finally on the phone with the customer. That's the most important thing. It's like, you know, how you got to the concert isn't as important as how you're going to dance once you get to the floor.
Right.
And I think about that a lot. And me, I've been doing this over 30 years. So like, I've been there, done that kind of thing. And like energy is harder and harder as you get older, you know, for the business, because you're not as hungry. You know, you're just not as hungry. It's like if they buy, it's not really going to change what I eat this weekend. If they don't buy, it's not going to change where I vacation this year. For some people it would, you know, so like when you're younger and you're starting out and you're trying to, you know, what do you call it? Establish yourself. Those things are so important. So it's so easy to like, but when the monetary side of it isn't as a big deal to you, then it's got to be something else. And what is it? And that's like what I've been working on over the last like 5 to 6 years. And for me, it's playing the game.
Sure. Well, and I think I wonder what percentage of people are in the state where it doesn't matter, right? I think you may be among the few percentage folks that are.
Yeah.
And most people, I mean, they're living and dying by every deal and the commission that they're going to get on it and the pressure that they're getting from their boss and the board and all of these things that are happening. But another thing you mentioned, I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you make calls, you mentioned that, you know, you bring your A game for each of them and that you make sure that you're on. Are you a say the same thing for the most part every time you call type of guy when it's a cold call, when you haven't met with them yet, but you get them on the call for the first time? Do you say the same script every time, or do you change it every time? You know what
Great
I'm at?
question. Yeah. No, I know exactly where you're going with that. I'm going to say that the theme of what I say, especially like in a cold outreach scenario, is going to be very, very similar. The theme and the energy level on my part is going to be high. And then two, how I speak about myself to the prospect is also going to be high. Like I'm going to say, hey, I am the gentleman that sent you an email on Monday. Did you see it? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. What did it say in it? If they said what it say in it, well, they just asked me to say my script.
Right.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. It's a perfect setup. It's conversational.
Yeah.
Right? And it's opening the door for you to be able to tell them why you've been reaching out, right? And I agree with you. I mean, one of the mishaps that I see a lot of sellers make is, well, I don't want to say the same thing every time that I make a one cold call to the next. Well, it's a cold call, and the person that answered 5 minutes ago is not the same person that answered now. And so if you keep changing what you're saying, then you're never really focused on the language that you're perfecting that keeps working the best over and over again. So ideally, I am a big believer, as you're describing, is keeping for sure the same theme as much as possible. Sometimes you got to tweak it based on their role, right?
Yeah.
A bit, but generally speaking, you're trying to build a script that works the same way every time, so you can capture people's attention and perfect it.
And I think, and I haven't heard a lot of this like in any, but I think like when you call somebody on the phone, and I'm sure you're in agreement with this, Doyle, when you call somebody on the phone, it's like you're standing in front of them and you're shaking their hand. You know, like at a party, your buddy says, hey, John, I want you to meet Bill. Bill, nice to meet you. John Sansoni. I'm the gentleman that sent you an email on Monday. but you know what I'm saying? Like most salespeople don't think that way. Most salespeople think that it's like, I got to say this and I got to say that. And it's really monotone. And they're not truly using their voice to shake that person's hand. Right. And to be welcoming to that person. And two, like, I'm sure you've been doing this so long, but like if somebody says they're busy, I don't get upset at all. Like, I like that actually. If I'm cold calling, somebody says they're busy, okay, understand. Would it be okay to call you tomorrow morning? Yes, it would. Well, now it's not a cold call.
That's right. Yeah. I like that. And, you know, sometimes I interject another little technique which works well for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll share with you. You know, if somebody says, I'm busy, I can't talk right now, I love your response to say, okay, how about tomorrow morning? Would you be available then? And they say, yes, that works. You still don't know if it's a push off sometimes. So sometimes I will add one more element and I'll say, and by the way, just to make sure that I'm not wasting your time, do you mind if I tell you in just 20 seconds what I'm calling about, so that we can decide if tomorrow is worth your time for me to call you again? And
that's
then
good.
Oftentimes we'll say, okay, sure. And so then I will tell them my 20-second spiel. We're doing some pretty cool stuff to do this, this, and this. And I'm curious to find out how you guys are managing all that right now. They might get into the conversation right there. And that allows me to say, well, listen, why don't we do this? It sounds like there's enough synergies that we should schedule a time to visit. Do you want to schedule the meeting on the calendar tomorrow morning at a certain time? So that way it's not me calling you out of the blue again. I want to use terms like, I'm not wasting your time. Right. I want to make sure I'm not wasting your time. I want to make sure that it's not just out of the blue. Right.
Right.
These are things people are automatically going, yeah, that's good. I would prefer that.
Yep. And to segue off that thought, and I do this a lot, is if they are busy, I never give them like one time. like I'm saying that because we're on a podcast and I'm just trying to keep stuff real simplistic and just drive home points. But if I'm really talking to somebody, I'm giving them a choice. Would tomorrow at 9 a.m. be better, or would you prefer 1 p.m.? What would be best for you?
Yes.
And then they have to choose.
Yeah. Well, in what I sometimes do, it's one of these, it's almost like I think you called it the wiggle earlier.
Yes, the wiggle.
What I'll say is, well, hang on a minute. Let me take a look at my calendar. And then that'll trigger them. Well, let me look at mine too.
Yeah, that's good. I like what you're saying, bro.
You know, I have a couple of options available for tomorrow, and now it's interactive.
Yes.
And I know you got to go. I know you were busy. So thanks for the time. I really look forward to getting with you tomorrow. Boom. And we're off and ready to go with a book call.
See, I love that. And one of the reasons I love that is because when you lead with your calendar, people will follow you down the road of what you're saying. So you brought up calendar. Now they're thinking calendar. It's just how the human brain works.
Yeah.
And so, and two, you're giving the impression that you're super busy, which if anybody listens to this podcast, if you're making your prospects think you have a ton of time on your hands, you're losing the game.
Yes. Well, the other common one is what? Send me some information.
Right? Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
We get that a lot. What do you do when people say, send me some information?
I guess it would depend upon what I am selling. Like, again, I'm a Zig Ziglar guy. So if they say, send me the information, I see it one as if they're busy and they say, send me information, depends upon what I'm selling. And it depends upon who I'm selling to. Like if I'm selling to like Verizon and IBM and I'm selling them a protocol analysis tool and they say, send me the information, I'm going to send them information on it.
Yeah.
See if they're familiar with it. And then if I'm getting them back on the phone, I might posture them a bit. Oh, I know all about this. Oh, really? Are you familiar with the ArtMeb? The ArtMeb? What's the ArtMeb? Oh, well, you know, we found that we could write a line of code that could look at any application on your computer network and find out which one is stalling your network the most. And we can do a report for you and we can show you across your entire enterprise which applications are stalling your network the most and give you just a complete compile of that. That's the ArtMeb. Oh, no, I wasn't familiar with the ArtMeb. I bet not.
Yeah, I like that technique. You're getting me fired up. You make me want to come work on your team.
Awesome. But yeah, you know, like I don't get bummed out about like send me the information. And now, if I was calling like homeowners, I might or might not send information. It all depend upon like how big the ticketed item is and are they just blowing me off? Like, oh, send me information, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes too, it's like most salespeople won't. Like I like to date my my cold outreach. And then when I send them a second email that relates to my cold outreach, I date it too. So I'm like, so April the 1st, I sent you an email and here's a copy of the email that I sent you April the 1st. And this is the second attempt. And the reason I do that is because it shows being organized and I'm just not like flying by the seat of my pants. Like I am professionally reaching out to you and I have this free offer. But yeah, send me information. I can remember like back when I was in my early 20s, we were selling industrial chemicals and I was working with this guy. His name was Marcus, funny guy. And he was like, oh, what are you telling me? You need a flyer? And they're like, yeah, I need a flyer. Okay, well, are you sitting in a chair right now? Yeah, I'm sitting in a chair. Okay, what I need you to do is put your left hand underneath your armpit. Are you doing that for me? Kind of like a quacker. Put your left hand under your armpit. Now, put your right hand underneath your armpit. Now move those arms back and forth. You got a flyer.
Yeah, I think some people are really good at using humor, and those people use it to their advantage. I think I heard one guy, and and I think he had an Irish accent or
Yeah.
something like that, which made him sound even funnier when he said it.
Yeah.
But say, yeah, my name is so and so, and I'm the guy that posts a lot of content on LinkedIn. Do you recognize my name? Does it ring a bell? And they go, no, I don't know who you are. And he'd be like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, maybe I wasn't doing as well as I thought. Now, when I say that, it doesn't sound funny, but when he said it,
yeah,
it's so funny. And it was such a great way for him to break the ice, which I think is another thing that people do too much of, right? And that is that they are looking for someone to tell them what to say and how to say it. And the reality of what I found is that the way I say it may not work for the way that you say it.
Yeah.
What's important is to take what you say, and if you're coaching someone, coach them on how to say what they say better. Okay.
I like it.
Rather than say it exactly the way that I say, because I've had plenty of times when people get frustrated and say, Doyle, I'm saying it exactly the way that you say it. Yeah. And I'm not getting any appointments. Right. And I'm saying, and really, it's not exactly the same.
Right.
Because of certain nuances, and it's not you. So ultimately, I think that's important. The other thing that you hear is people now when we're coming to the point of, send me some information, getting back to that point.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people say, well, ask them, well, what kind of information would you like me to send to you? So I send you the appropriate stuff. Well, on a cold call, most cases, they have no idea what you do.
Right.
And when I ask them that and put them on the spot, it has never worked for me. I've never found that to be effective. So what I do is I will say, absolutely, I'll get you a little email in just a moment as soon as we hang up. I just want to verify the email address. I'm giving them exactly what I want. And at the end, I'm going to use one of those little techniques again about saving them time. Is would you be so kind to just respond and let me know either way? Because I'm sure you don't want me to call you again if this isn't up your alley. But I'm going to call you in a couple of days to follow up if I haven't. But would you be so kind to just reply either way? And they always say yes. And even if I improve my response rate by 10, 20, 30%, that's a win. And that's what we got to stack those percentage points. In some cases, when it's connect rate, 1%, 0.5% is a huge improvement. It doubles.
Absolutely, yeah. Doubles.
On a reply rate, if you increase that by 10 or 20%, that's a huge improvement. So if we keep doing things as leaders and as individual contributors to stack the deck in our favor, in our people's favor, then we're going to be a lot more successful at the end of a month, of a quarter, of a year.
I'll tell you, I'd forgotten about this until you talked about it, because you're talking technology, and we've kind of been talking like technology products. And then I thought it back like when I was a technology sales guy, and I had the best sales manager ever. He was like, he knew what his quota was for nationally, like what his number was. And he took everybody that was working for him and he divided it. And then he gave you your number based upon what his number was, but he increased your number by 20%.
Okay.
And he always hit his number and blew it out. And then he'd have like people like me that were, sold a ton of stuff. And so I would like pump it up even more. And then he put me on what was called accelerators. This was years ago, over 20 years ago. And probably 25 years ago. But the reason I'm bringing it up is like he used to say, if you get out X amount of proposals a day, like he knew exactly how many proposals you needed to get out a day and what the dollar amount of those proposals were a day. He knew that if you got out that many, you could expect that month to sell less. And it would get better because you'd develop a pipeline. So the first month it might not work. But by 5 months into the new job, if you're sending out those kind of proposals, it's all just going to kind of like, you're going to get the people that told you no or not right now. They're going to call and buy. You're going to get the new people. You're going to get better at it. And, but it was just a beautiful scenario. So he got me early in my software sales career in the habit, when somebody said, send me information, I sent them a proposal. So I asked him just enough questions, and we were selling at this point McAfee antivirus software. So I had to know how many servers they had, how many computers they had, and that was it. So it was pretty easy to put a proposal together. But later on in my software career, it got more difficult to put a proposal together because what they were buying was more complicated. But I didn't get so caught up in having the perfect schematic, like the perfect scope of what they needed on the proposal. I just wanted to get them numbers, because psychologically, you just got a proposal from a sales guy, you're in pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Unless your company has no money, then you're not in pipeline. Then you're a budgeted item for next year. But still, and from doing that, Doyle, I would have crazy things happen. And one of the craziest things happened was I had a guy not interested in all in my software, no interest whatsoever. But I had his email address, I had his company, and I had an idea like what everybody else was buying. So I just put a proposal together for him and sent it to him, even though he didn't ask for it. He got it. This was years ago. He got it in his email, printed it out, put it on his desk, and then quit and went to work for another company. The new guy came in, called me up on the phone, and he was like, hey, I see that Bob was talking to you about this solution. Can you tell me more about it? And he bought.
That's great. That's a great story. I like that. You know, it's interesting because I think that ties in again to one of those scenarios where if it works for you, if it works for your industry, don't overcomplicate things. Keep it simple and move things forward to a point where you're not, you've got to sell to people the way that they want to buy, right?
Absolutely.
And in the scenario that you're giving, even though it was software sales, it seemed like a really effective process. So I like it.
Yeah, not everybody can afford the software. So so that was kind of something that was good. Because like a lot of salespeople are like, oh, I don't have any good leads. Oh, I need more leads. I have horrible leads. These leads are crap. You know, it's always blame it on the leads, not on the salesperson or the process. Well, when you're selling enterprise level software packages, only the biggest companies can buy it. Mm-hmm. So you can't like burn a client, because it's not like there's a bunch of companies out there called Verizon or T-Mobile or General Dynamics. You know, there's only one. So like Lockheed Martin, you can't burn a bridge at these large companies. And you also can't say to yourself, I can't get my product in there, because you got to get your product in there if you're going to eat.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's you know, it's kind of intriguing to me though. Like this guy the other day, because I do sales training like you do, and my sales training is all about cold outreach. He's like, oh, I don't do cold outreach, John. My company provides me leads. And I thought about that. I thought that was kind of intriguing, that like he doesn't consider the fact that they're not a customer already as being cold outreach just because they wiggled a little bit and raised their hand and said, I need help. Doesn't mean they're going to buy from you. It means they could buy from you, but they're not a customer. It's cold outreach, folks. I mean, I'm sorry if unless it's your brother-in-law and he's bought 5 times from you, it's cold outreach. And sometimes even a current customer can be considered cold outreach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never been fortunate enough to work for a company that provided me with high quality inbound leads.
Yeah,
I have obviously worked in cold outreach where we pull our data from a data provider, you know,
yes.
Infos, Apollos of the world, and so forth. And then I've heard of other companies which I would not want to work in this situation, is where they don't have any data at all. and then they expect people to bring their Rolodex. And I tell people, listen, if somebody wants me to come and help them with outbound prospecting,
Yeah.
and they say, well, we're looking for someone who can bring their Rolodex. I'm interviewing people based on, the friendlies that they can bring to the table. I said, if that's what you're looking for, I'm not them.
You're right.
Because listen, if you go hire someone who claims they have all these relationships and contacts in their Rolodex, do you really believe that they go from one company to the next and sell to those same people based on who they work for and just because they are friends? No, I don't think so. And that Rolodex is going to run out quick. So you've got to be able to produce new cold to warm up prospects. So ideally, you're working in a scenario where you have a combination of both, right? Because again, it's about setting expectations. I recently did a Google search to find out what is the average time to close sales cycle.
Oh, okay.
Cold outreach, right? And the cold outreach is between 90 days and 2 years with enterprise and larger deals.
I believe it.
And so ultimately what people often say is, well, we need to hire biz dev reps or go to market teams. And the expectation is that you're going to flip a light switch and all of a sudden you're going to have more business than ever. Well, it's true if you can get someone who knows what they're doing, that it's going to play a part in it. But what's the percentage of business that's going to come from cold outreach? If you think it's 100%, then you can expect that whole thing to be slower. But if
absolutely. Yeah.
Right. To be a combination of ad campaigns and content and, and cold through multiple channels. Now, again, we're getting back to that concept of stacking the deck in your team's favor.
Yeah.
And so you've got to pick, especially if you're an early stage startup, for example, you got to pick scenarios of what's going to work for you and your budget now, but always make sure that you're setting the right tone. I had one company that I'm in contract negotiations with now. They said, we're going to give you a lower retainer, but we're going to give you what is a really generous commission. And when they sent me the agreement, it said the commission is going to be given if the deal closes within 90 days of the initial appointment. And if you don't know what you're looking at, that's going to put you in a terrible position. Because
that seems like a horrible situation.
Almost nobody's going to buy within first 90 days, right? So ultimately, if the agreement is somewhere between, if the current benchmark is between 3 months, 90 days, and 2 years, then let's meet in the middle. 1 year from the first appointment to close is a lot more reasonable, and so just being careful for those folks that are doing side gigs or consulting gigs.
Yeah,
early stage companies that can do part-time work. Just read through and think through scenarios and be able to justify things based on real business case and use case scenarios.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is yeah, because I mean, when I was in IT, man, the sales cycles could be like crazy long. Sometimes they'd be fast, but many times they were crazy long. So you had to do bread and butter business while you're working the enterprise business.
This is the part of the show where we promote. Doyle runs a business called Follow-Ups. Prospecting is hard. We make it easier. Increase your meetings booked by 44%. Go to followups.com. I'll now promote what I do. I am John the Sales Warrior Sansoni. I've been professionally selling successfully for 34 years. What can I teach you? How to prospect, present, follow up, and most importantly, how to close. I have a 3-day masterclass that includes inspiration, motivation, and the mental tools to succeed in business and sales. My course includes worksheets, audio, video, and can be taken in 30 action blocks. Also included, how to have greater confidence. My course should be $400. If you get it today, $29.95. And included my book for free. Once purchased, you'll get free monthly inspiration from me. Just go to saleswarriorinspire.com and order yours today. That's it. Back to the show.
Well, good, John.
Yeah, man.
I've enjoyed it.
Doyle, man, great having you on the War Room, brother.
I appreciate it. I had a great time. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend. And John the Sales Warrior saying goodbye, everybody. Cheers.